Welcome back to a detailing adjacent video where today we are doing some paint chip repair on this Lexus. Now, rock chips in your vehicle's paintwork are never fun, and I promise you, no matter how long you stare at them, they will never go away. So I'm going to teach you guys how to fix them so they can go away and hopefully go away permanently and you don't have to deal with them again. Well, that is until you get another one. So today we have this Lexus here that has several different rock chips that I've gone ahead and I've used some blue masking tape to identify. I got a couple chips here. I got a couple chips here, here, couple on the front bumper, couple on the side doors, and so on. I've been doing rock chip repair for about 5 to 6 years now, and I do a lot of jobs here on the side, and it's a great way to make extra money as a detailer, but it's also something that car enthusiasts should learn as well, because let's face it, we all hate rock chips. Behind me here, I have a table full of products, but we're gonna start with the bread and butter, the Dr. ColorChip kit. Now, I've been using the Dr. ColorChip system since I started doing rock chip repair, and trust me when I say this is probably the best system on the market and something that almost everybody can use with professional results. People are gonna say, Anthony, the only way to properly fix a rock chip in your vehicle's paintwork is going to be to scuff up the area, and then add your base coat, let it dry. Add your clear coat, let it dry. Take your 5 different grits of sandpaper, go through, sand everything down, and buff it out, compound it, and then it can be fixed. That's one way to do it, and that method's okay, but it requires a lot of time and a lot of effort, and oftentimes, this right here is gonna give me 95% of that exact same result. Trust me, I've done it hundreds of times at this point. I have full faith that the Dr. ColorChip system will give you more than sufficient results, but you have to have patience and you have to follow the directions. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and take out our paint. This is gonna be the first step in this process. Now, this is going to come with your touch-up paint in the kit, and you're also going to get their SealAct, which is going to be kind of their blender and their sealant. This is also going to be what you can use to remove excess paint. So here I have 4U7, which is going to match this vehicle's paintwork. Now, you can get any color mixed from Dr. ColorChip as long as you have a paint code. So you'll jump onto the website, you'll enter your vehicle's information, you'll pick your exact code, and if you don't know what the code is, you can go in the door jamb, and oftentimes they're gonna be labeled inside there. So this one right here is kind of like a goldish beige color. It does have some metallic in it, but I think that this is actually gonna be a pretty close match based on what I'm seeing right here. I'm really actually excited to see it as well. So what I like to do is start shaking this up. About 1 minute to 2 minutes, and this is just going to ensure that that little ball bearing in there is going to mix up all that paint properly, so we're getting the right amount of metallic. Now, you're also going to need some isopropyl alcohol. Now, I do recommend washing your vehicle. This is like the first step. You should absolutely wash your vehicle. That way you can identify what is actually a chip. After you've washed everything, go around, take your tape and mark it. You're gonna need isopropyl alcohol to clean out that chipped area. So if you have just wax on the car or a sealant on the car, this is gonna help strip some of that. If you have a car that's been ceramic coated and you've coated over the chips, that's where things are gonna be a little bit difficult. So you're gonna wanna take a little blob of compound onto a microfiber towel and simply just agitate that area to hopefully remove some of that coating so the paint can adhere. But for the most part, clean vehicle, all you're gonna really need is some alcohol here, as well as some microfiber towels. I'm using some Ultra Rip and Rag XLs, and then I also have some gloves, which are gonna help me blend everything. You'll see that here in just a few minutes. And then I have some extra touch-up pens. Now, I ordered these off of Amazon. They're really cheap, they're really affordable. You can get like 500 of these for like $6 or something. And so all these they're just micro brushes, and I prefer to use these over the actual brushes that come with the Dr. ColorChip kit. No offense, it's just, this is my go-to. This is what I've been using for years. So here we go, getting started. Let's get our gloves on, people. Safety first. So gloves on, giving the paint one last shake. The last thing I want to point out is going to be temperature for application. So it's 70 degrees here in the studio. It's literally perfect temperature for doing rock chip repair. If it's too hot outside, if you're doing it in direct sunlight, then the paint may dry sooner than expected. So just keep that in mind. And if it's too cold outside, you might have some bonding issues with actually getting the paint to stick. So if you can try to apply it between 50 degrees up to like 85, 90 degrees, that's probably the sweet spot for the application, but I wouldn't go further in either direction. Paint should be mixed up. I'm gonna take a quick look here and do a comparison. Dude, it's pretty close. Like, they did a great job on that. I'm pretty happy about it. Sometimes with the metallic, sometimes we'll have some of the flakes that appear darker or some of them appear lighter, but this one, once it's mixed up, is gonna be pretty money. Next up, we're gonna take our microfiber towel here and I'm gonna take our alcohol. This is 70% isopropyl alcohol, and I just threw a little sprayer on the top of it. So I'm gonna move my tape over here, and we're gonna be focusing on these kind of 3 chips. So take my alcohol, we're gonna make sure to clean those out. Again, you want a vehicle that has been washed ideally. And once you get good at this process, you're gonna start moving pretty quickly. You're gonna have some chips that are gonna give you a little bit more grief. Some are gonna require multiple applications, but for the most part, you should be able to knock out like a 2x2 square, probably less than 10 minutes once you get really good at things. We're gonna take our micro brush here and we're gonna take our paint. So I highly recommend finding a good safe spot for the paint, because too many times have I set this down and then knocked it over and spilled all my paint out. So I like to take the whole lid off personally. That's just what I like to do, and then set that aside. From here, we're gonna go ahead and grab ourselves a little bit of touch-up paint just on the brush. And so I'll typically just roll the paint into the micro brush just like that. I don't need a whole lot. And then I'm going to start my chip repair. So right here is our chip, and we're gonna make our blob. Now this is like a pretty much almost a perfect color match in my opinion. And then I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to start spreading it over into the chip here, just like that, right? And so this could take multiple applications, but we'll just kind of show you how I'll build up a little bit of paint here on this first chip and then kind of call it good. All right, that one's a pretty deep one. The paint on this Lexus is surprisingly deep, so it's all the way down to bare metal, which is okay because this can bond to that. And then again, kind of use my thumb and kind of move it into the paint. Now, Dr. ColorChip does have their squeegees. Some people like to use that, especially when it comes to fixing road rash. Me personally, I just like to use the side of my thumb. That's always been the easiest method for me. So what we're gonna do is let that set up just for a second or two. Sometimes you might get greedy and you wanna go back for a little bit more. But what I'm trying to do right now is just add a little bit more body to that chip right there and just build it up, just like that. And then same one with over here, just a little bit more, build that up, get it to where I'm happy. And that's a pretty good spot there. And then same thing with this last one, add it up and spread it in. Now you'll know when the paint starts setting up and drying when it starts getting tacky, right? You'll start going to wipe your thumb across the surface and it's gonna actually start getting really sticky. So that means that it's in the process of drying. Just at that point, stop and call it good. Now you're probably thinking, Anthony, are you done? Yeah, I'm done. Looks good, right? Right? Are you guys happy with that? Gabriel, are you happy with that? Yeah? No, so we're gonna go back through with our SealAct and we're gonna remove it. So SealAct is kind of like a solvent, so it's gonna help us remove a lot of that excess paint there, and we'll be able to double check our chip to make sure that we did a good job. And if we have to go back over it, we'll go back over it again. But in the meantime, I'm gonna start knocking out some of these other smaller chips right here. So this one down here, same thing, kind of go right next to it. Move in my paint. And what's nice is you can tackle multiple chips in one go because you have to give it time to dry anyways. So you might as well start making your way around the vehicle. You just don't want to forget where you went. So using proper lighting, like a headlamp or something like that, is going to be really helpful because you're going to be able to identify kind of where you've gone and where you need to go. While those are setting up, I'm going to focus on these right here and just get these going with the first coat. Take my towel, prep this, get this all cleaned out. Now, some people might be wondering, when is a chip too big for touch-up? To me, a chip that's too big is like a patch of paint, right? And even then, I can probably still make that look a little bit better. But for the most part, you know, I've been able to make some magic happen with even chips that are the size of, you know, like a penny. And I've been able to go through and build up paint to where it looks at least a lot better in my opinion. But for the most part, this system really is gonna be like amazing for this size that I'm working with right here. So this kind of smaller size. So got a little bit of lint in there from the towel. Move that over, spread that in, done there, done there. And the reason why I like to go to the side of the chip is because I get a nice even spread, but it's also gonna depend on kind of where the impact of the rock landed, right? So if it's like it's sharper on one side or more angled on one side, I may approach it from a different angle. So like this one right here, I might sweep it upwards because this looks like it was coming from the bottom here on the front end, so I'll sweep that upwards into the chip just like that. Coming over here, same thing, couple right here, spread that in. A little small one right there. Spread that in. So next up here, we have our initial batch where we started, right? So I started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's about 8 chips, but we're gonna focus on these 3 right here. So I'm gonna take our cloth that comes in the Dr. ColorChip kit. This is necessary. Do not throw this away. This is not trash. And you're also gonna take your SealAct. Give your SealAct a good shake. Then from there, we're gonna pop the top on this, and we're gonna apply this to a corner of the towel. So see how I have that kind of shaped like a corner there? And I'm gonna use that to remove my excess paint. So taking this, we'll start on this one first. And I'm going to start lightly rubbing around the outside of my chip. Now how I like to do this is go outward to inward. We'll see, start seeing some of that paint transfer there. So starting from the outside, going to the inside. The reason why this is going to remove a little bit of my mess from my finger, but it's also going to ensure that I'm taking off that outside edge off the chip so it's not lifting the second I go to start wiping over the top. So again, going around the outside of the chip first, working in. And then from there, I'll go over the very top, okay? So there's one there. Coming around this side, knocking out this one, going around the outside edge. And you can feel the friction from the paint, and that's totally normal. That area has been knocked out with a first, we'll call it a first coat. And this is where some people can stop. So if this right here looks better to you, and you're happy with that, then move on with your life, right? If you're like, wow, it's got color in it, I don't notice it anymore, that's plenty good, then you don't have to do anything else. You can just go around, right? Because even having a little bit of paint in here is going to hopefully prevent some rust or any other issues like that that could occur later down the line. But for me, I still see this kind of, this edge. I don't like seeing this edge. I want to get that just a little bit more leveled. I want to build that up a little bit further. Now these smaller ones, I'm not super concerned about those because they're small, but these larger ones, like this is gonna, that's gonna just clear up really fast. But those big ones are definitely going to bug me. Like that right there, can't even tell it's there. Right here, coming around this outside edge. Done, happy with that. And it's all about setting expectations too. So if you're doing this for a customer, if you're doing this for a business, you wanna make sure that they know going into this that, yeah, is it gonna look like brand new again? Probably not, but it's going to be the right color, and depending on how much you build up, it's gonna be significantly less noticeable. So there, that one's done. And then last one here, we are done here. This one was slightly on the bigger side. I'm happy with that. Cool. We're done there. Take our towel, buff that off. I think that looks a lot better. So now what about those 3? So those 3, this is what I like to do. So because I'm gonna be building these up just a little bit more, I'm gonna take my towel that I've already sprayed with a little bit of alcohol, and I'm going to simply just glide over the top. Perfect. And then I'm going to grab probably a new brush at this point. I usually go through quite a few different brushes, and I'll grab a new one. Come back through and I'll see, okay, this one needs to be built up a little bit more. So take a little bit more paint. And sometimes at this point, I'll usually go right on the chip and then spread that in. Same thing, spread that in. Spread that in. And the longer you let it dry too, the harder it is going to be to remove with the SealAct, but sometimes the more build you can get on a chip, meaning that you might have to do less applications in total because you built it up from the beginning. So like even that one right there is already looking significantly better, but I'm going to do just a little bit more of a build on it and get that to where it's just a little higher before it starts getting too sticky. So I'm pretty happy about that. So that's the second coat there. So I'm actually pretty happy with how things are going right here. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe off my SealAct on the other side. Now you don't want to work around an entire car because you're going to start to lose where you've been. Trust me, I know this because I still lose where I've been sometimes. So just say, I'm doing the hood, I'm doing the bumper, I'm doing the door, I'm doing a mirror, and then just work in those sections at a time. And I think that you'll have a way more successful results. So yeah, try not to bite off more than you can chew. So that's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna let that set up. So again, I'm gonna discard that other brush there, and I'm gonna come back through with my SealAct solution and start knocking out my excess paint over on this side. Now I'm going back over with more SealAct on my second coat here. I'm again working around the chip, working inward, and it's already starting to look a lot better. This one, I'm very proud of that one. If I can keep the build on that one and have that set up, then that one's gonna be dang near perfect for a touch-up repair. But it's all gonna be about how I remove this. So again, if I get too greedy, there's a good chance I can pull the paint out of the chip. So I'm gonna try not to get greedy. Try to work within what's realistic. And I think that's sitting good. Here we go, advanced technique for everybody. Are you ready for this? Grab yourself a micro brush. Then you're gonna use it as a toothpick. And you're gonna bite it with your teeth, twist it, spit it off into the Swiss Tracks flooring for the next person to worry about it. Sorry, that was gross. Okay, sorry. The goal here is I'm trying to get a perfect point here on my micro brush. I'm trying to basically make a toothpick, but I like this more than a toothpick sometimes because sometimes I can have just a little bit of like a kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a needle effect, right? And I can use that kind of needle-like thing to get in there. So let's see if I can get this perfect. Got it. Perfect. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. So I have just a little bit of something there on the top, and that's when I will kind of use this as like now like a paint dropper tool, and I'll drop it just kind of right down into the chip itself, and then I will let it self-level. Told myself not to get greedy. I'm getting greedy. Cool. And I'll paint it around the edge there. Same thing with this over here. Drop that right into it. Sometimes it's a first try, sometimes it takes a second. And there we go. That was too dark. Dang it. I think I'm gonna kick myself for getting greedy. Hold up a little bit too much metallic in that one. Cool. Okay, so now I've kind of blobbed it, right? And you're like, what the heck, Anthony? I thought you don't want to blob it paint. Yeah, you don't really want to blob it, but now I'm gonna take my finger, kind of just knock that down just a little bit. And I think that looks pretty good. Now, patience is key.
Told myself not to get greedy. I'm getting greedy.
Right? Because let's be honest, not everybody's a patient person. I didn't used to be a patient person, but I kind of just pretended that I was Bob Ross, or I pretended that I was, you know, like an artist. I think that really helps me, basically. So just try to zen out. Make sure you have plenty of time on your hands. Don't try to rush this. So you're gonna have several different sides of your kind of cheesecloth here. So flip it as needed. I'm gonna apply a little bit more SealAct here. I'm gonna go and start cleaning up the outside of this chip here. That's coming off really easy. Thinking this one might clean up well, but I dropped a little bit too much paint into this one. Yep, I got greedy. Dang it. So I pulled out some paint there. That's okay, nothing to worry about. We can go back through. This one was my pride and joy over here. Let's hope that this chip turns out the same. Please, please, don't pull too much. Pulled too much. Pulled too much. Don't get greedy. I even told myself, don't get greedy. I went for it. So now it's just gonna be another coat. So I kind of set myself back like another, I don't know, minute. So clean that area up again. Wipe that down. And then I'm going to re-alcohol that one more time. So take my alcohol towel, So we are at the, I'll call it like the 3/4 spot of these chips. So because we're filming a video, it's taking me a little bit longer, but we're gonna shake up our paint one more time. I think that this will probably be the final coat here. So take our brush and we're going to start with the same process again. I went through, I re-alcoholed the chips once they dried up, and we're gonna go for our final little layer here. And this one I'm just going to brush in with my finger. Call it good. And then over on this side, same thing. Now we wait. All right, so I'm knocking down what I was hoping was gonna be this final level, but I'm seeing a little bit too much of a lip on this one right here. And so I'm probably gonna do one more pass with the same amount of dry time, which was about 5 minutes of dry time is what I did on that one. And so I'll probably do that one more time and then probably call it good, because these other ones, the surrounding ones, turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this little small one I'm removing right now. I think that this one's going to kind of disappear. And yeah, I think that looks okay. It's really going to be, because what we're doing is we're if you think of a crater, right? This is a chip. We're just building this up and up and up and up. But eventually, right, the paint is gonna shrink, right? So you're going to lose some of that, especially once it gets cold outside. So we're gonna be losing it a little bit, so I'm trying to compensate. So I'm trying to build it up enough so once it does lose a little bit of body, that it'll still be nice and clean and it's not gonna have a super hard edge there. So that's the goal. At 2 feet away, I can't even really see these chips. At 5 feet away, they're gonna be completely invisible, but I will do one more application on that. After several different applications and kind of going back and forth, I was having a little bit of issue with the metallic, because inside the bottle, you're gonna have all the metallic mixture in there. And sometimes you might pull out a little bit darker metallic, sometimes you might pull out some lighter metallic. And so the idea is to try to get a really good mix. That's why you always wanna make sure it's shaken. But there was one application I got which was almost perfect, but it was a little bit too light. And so I removed it, shook it up again, made sure everything was mixed properly, and then went back through, and I was able to get a really nice fill on this chip right here. This one over here is still a little bit lighter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let these completely cure and completely set up. So I'm just gonna call it good for right now, make my way to some other chips, and then I can always come back and build it up after it cures if necessary. But I think I'm gonna show you guys how to do like a really difficult chip, like one of those that's like a big nuisance, but I'm gonna show you how easy it can be if we're lucky. So let's jump to that. This is gonna be a little bit of a different chip style. So right here on this door molding, you're gonna see that we kind of have a big chunk of paint missing here, right? I got a little piece here, I got a big piece here, and I got a small one right next to it. So what I like to do on these is, it's actually kind of more of the blob method, but I like to basically start at the top and let it kind of fill itself in and hopefully have good bonding. So what I'll do is I'll start up top here, kind of let it flow down here, and then let it self-level. At that point in time, with a chip this big, if it looks pretty good and I'm happy with the metallic and I'm happy with the color, I'll usually probably call it good at that point, right? I'm gonna be able to fill in a lot more because I'm not gonna be actually abrading the surface with the leveling towel, and you don't have to level it. You can if you want to, but sometimes you might remove paint because this is gonna be a harder edge here. So what I'll do for this, make sure my paint is shaken up, and I'm going to start right there at the very top. And so around the outside here, there's a little bit of paint cracking, not a huge deal, but I have a small chip and a small chip. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my paint, roll it on the outside of my little holder here. I'm gonna roll it on the outside of my, what do you call this? Yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna take a little paint here, roll it into the, so I'm gonna take my brush, roll it into my paint, roll it on the outside edge of that lip, and then I'm gonna find a good place to start. So probably right there towards the top. I'm going to start there, and I'm gonna slightly push it upwards, and then I'm going to blot it down, bring it up to that edge there, get to that other edge. I'm gonna start bringing it downward. So I'm gonna try to meet that lip because that paint is cracked right there. So I'm gonna try to have overlap there, bring it down, bring it down, and then fill that in. So what I have is a little bit of consistency around that outside edge. That's okay. And then next to that, I'm gonna blob that, smooth that out with my finger. Oop, just remove some paint there, fill that back in. And then same thing next to this one. Blob that in, fill that in. So it's not my favorite method of doing this. You can also start in the middle and start building up like one layer by another layer by another layer, but oftentimes I might get lucky and I might be like, yes, that's perfect, don't touch it. And then I call it good, let it cure, and it's a permanent fix. But this side over here, I'll kind of do the same thing. Start at that upper edge, work my way down. And that right there, I'm happy with that. Like that's actually exactly what I was hoping was gonna happen on this side, happen on that side. I'm leaving that, not gonna touch it. Now I'm gonna have to go back over this side, but I'm gonna get a little bit of time to dry up so I can remove it with the SealAct. I am currently trying to knock this down just a little bit. So I did start to do like a build up. So I laid my first layer down, and the first layer is gonna be kind of like my, if we treat it like a base coat, kind of like a base coat. I'm knocking it down just a little bit with the SealAct, just to give myself a level surface to be able to apply just a little bit more paint. But these outside chips actually turned out to be pretty good. So I'm gonna try to get comfortable here, and happy with how those turned out, but we're gonna try to build this up a little bit more. It's mainly because that paint cracked, and I'm trying to fill that in and create a bridge there where the paint cracked so it doesn't continue cracking and or flaking. And so I think I just gave myself a pretty good starting point there. We'll grab a little bit more IPA, knock it down, and then try to do one more fill and see what happens. I am making myself semi-comfortable here. Then we're gonna go ahead and drop in a little bit more paint. And again, we're gonna kind of start it here at the top, middle. I'm gonna push this around. Probably going to be it. We're gonna let that self-level and give that just a little bit more time. See if I can get rid of any of those darker spots there. I think we're gonna call it good there. I'm not gonna get too greedy. This chip was really, really rigid, meaning that it was indented into the plastic itself, so I had to build it up in multiple layers. So I kind of basically built up around the outside edge first, and then started building it up to that point of the peak of the highest point in the plastic. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's kind of like a volcano, reverse volcano. I went from the bottom to the top there and met it at the top and then called it good. And so I'm not gonna SealAct this one. I'm just gonna let this set up and cure on its own. Should be totally fine. Part of this is fighting a little bit of obsession and having to call it good at a certain point because I've spent a long time on this one and I'm happy with it. We're gonna call it good. So yeah, let's wrap this thing up. That is going to be a wrap on how to do rock chip repair, especially when using the Dr. ColorChip system. Now, there's other systems out there that are similar to Dr. ColorChip that will probably give you just as good as results. But going back to what I said earlier in terms of doing the whole thing with base coat and adding clear coat and sanding it and polishing it, yes, that can offer some good results as well, but it's a lot of work and a lot of time to have something where like Dr. ColorChip, which can give you almost the exact same result if you have patience. And so biggest thing here, make sure to pick up a ton of extra micro brushes off of Amazon. To give you an idea, for just this amount of chips here on the front of the car, as well as those 2 big side chips, I used about 30 of those micro brushes. So you're gonna use a lot more than what you would get in the Dr. ColorChip box here. So I'm really happy about this. I think that the customer is going to absolutely love it. I think he's not gonna be able to find the chips. I can't find the chips from here, so you can grab a friend, play find the chip or whatever you want to do to see if you did a good job. So hopefully you guys learned something new today. Check out Dr. ColorChip and have fun. Go out there, relax, zen out, do some rock chip repair. I promise you, if you get good at it, this will be a new thing that you love doing. So as always, if you love the detailing content, please make sure you give us a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any of our future videos, and stay tuned for more of that premium detailing content right here at the Rag Company. See ya.